for the awesome introduction. I couldn't even set it clear as you can say. So, hi everyone, let me share the screen quickly and let me know that you can all see it. I'll just hide this floating meeting control.
Yep, we can see it.
All good, yeah, thanks. So hello everyone. Good morning from Singapore. I'm very exciting to join the meetup today. And today I'll talk about a specific topic in Angular. So it is not like very specific in Angular. So it's not like a broader topic like Sam just did. But I really enjoy Sam talk just now. I also use Notion a lot in my personal daily. So today I'll talk more on Angular reactive form, and as you might have known, the reactive form in Angular is great, but it didn't come with strongly typed support. So with that, we will go through the talk and I'll explain more. It's just a little bit about me, and Julie has did a great job on making it very clear. And I'm Trung, I'm from Vietnam, and currently I'm a front-end engineer based in Singapore. My English is still a bit of Asian accent, so still a bit faster. And if you don't get anything, just give me a question after the talk. I'm happy to give any answer. And for the Angular Vietnam group, it is with 14K member. I think it is more like because we has the Facebook group to run Angular Vietnam, and people was looking for Angular technology in Vietnam a lot. That's why people just keep asking to join the group. And for now, it is like 14K member, and I think it's like keep increasing. So I think it's every 1 or 2 months we got a new 1,000 member more. So but still the activity in the group is not that very exciting every day. People still posting questions and stuff, but also the management team also wanted to provide more content to the group. And we have the new Twitter just set up last month, and yeah, it would be great that you can follow and keep track for our upcoming event. So the agenda for today is like we go through, like revisit, like recap the Angular form with template and reactive form in two way of using Angular. And we talk about like more into why is the, no, it's like how reactive form is not strongly tied and it is not good sometimes. Maybe it could create some bugs that we don't want. And with that, I will move to the library called engineer directive form to make the integration with strongly tied reactive form simple, and also they provided more functionality on top of reactive form. And we go through an example of rewriting the form with strongly tied. And now with that, I go through some added functionality on the library itself, and we will end the talk. It could take roughly 25 to 30 minutes. And yeah, I hope I can finish this on time. With that, let's get started. Fasten your seatbelt before we get started. Yeah. So it is one example of a simple Angular form. You can head into my personal project, and you can click via jira.chungk18.com, and you can click to the add button on the left. So basically, there's a few custom drop down, and there's a input with a retake error, and also just a few more custom drop down. So it is not very simple form to say, but it is like an example of the form that I did with Angular. And usually when you work in form with Angular, there's a two-way. So the first one is the template driven, which means that you define the shape of data, how it's look, how it's like coming out from the form, and then you will initiate the data model inside the class. For reactive form, you will explicitly define the form. It could be either form builder, which is what I'm using, like what I'm seeing on, like showing on the screen, or you can do just a new form group, which basically it has the same result as using form builder. And you can put like how the shape is look like with the default value, and also some kind of validator for the control itself. And to connect it with the template for TemplateDriven, use most of the time we use ng model, which is the two-way binding syntax in Angular. And behind the scene, it will like implicitly creating the form stuff. You don't have to care about all of that. And in reactive form, you give the form group to a form. Like form group basically just uh, to um, to to collect the form control together, because like it could be like individual form control. So form group is just like collection of form control, and you give it the form group to the form itself, and then for each of the control, you could use either the form control name, or if you using the custom like component, you could decide to passing the control into the component itself, or you can implement your like control value acceptor so that you can use the same thing. Like this custom component will be behave like a supported control. And like I mentioned before, so template driven is like you will work closely with form module, while reactive is more like reactive form module, and you can see more of form group, form control, and array, and also form builder. And for reactive, everything is explicit and synchronous, which means that you have to create your form, you have to bind it into the template, and then when you want to get the data from the form, you need to call a method on the form that we created to get the value. For template driven, you will just need to take the object that you define at the beginning, and then every time you make change on the UI, the object will be automatically like updated, and you can just use it. For a productional uses, the Angular team recommended to use reactive form for the scalable and like complicated form. Template driven is like more suitable for a very small with maybe two control, like username and password, for example. Yeah, for very simple use case. But for a reactive, it's gonna be like easier for you to extend and scale in the future. So that is the way when you decided. But still, you can still using template driven for like complicated form, but maybe along the way there might be some like problem that you are facing, and it could be easier handled with reactive form. But there's one problem of reactive form, even it is the recommended way to use. But one thing is like reactive form is not strongly timed. What does it mean is like when you define your form group, you just like the left side is the form control name, and the right side is all of the property for the form control. And you has no way to tell if you want this first name to be a string, or you want to be to has exactly three control. So say on the screen I remove the first name, and there's no warning, nothing. I mean, if you expected it on the server side, maybe you get an error. And if you passing different value into the default value, because the s here is expecting a number, and you could pass in like freely, could be a boolean, it could be a string, it could be an array, it could be an object. So mine has some problem when we working with form, and we didn't really like, sometimes it just happened. We focus, but it just happened. So yeah, this happened. Bug is always there. And go back to the example that I showed you guys before. So this is the form. And I will show you the code quickly. So to create this form for me is quite simple. I just using this form group, and I'm just passing a bunch of default value and validator. And say I wanted to do something like that. It's simple. I wanted to just display an error message when the control title it touches and it has an error of required. It looks like it's very normal setup, but if you look closely, I was like intentional putting this title with an HRT, and even though the compiler still pass through and the code is still building, it's work like normal code. But when you run it, it's probably will throw an error because the title is not defined on the form group itself. That's why when you do this control.title, you will get an undefined. And when you're trying to access the hash error method on the undefined, it's gonna just throw you an error, which is pretty bad. And if we don't have this like a very like clear regression uh, test with the from the QA and stuff, it could lead to production. It's easy because you don't usually expect it to happen. And I don't write a lot of unit tests on my code, so yeah, it is dangerous. And it's not the new issue, and it's been opening like since just like immediately, right immediately. Angular 2 is officially launched the 2.0, and it's been open for 4 years. But I think the Angular team know about this problem, and they wanted to make the Angular form is strictly typing. Like you can define the shape of the form, and you got own kind of suggestion and warning beforehand, so that you don't running in the like problem might that you might run into the problem that I showed you before. But at the moment, we don't know when it's gonna be released, because now it's Angular 11. It could be in, I don't know, maybe 14. Yeah, I haven't sure about that. So that's why I look for a solution online. I think people also try to work around this issue by like define an additional type and stuff to really give the form control and form group and everything has the type, so that you got the benefit from the static typing in TypeScript. And I found this library called Nginx Reactive Form, and they said it is still Angular reactive form, but with benefits, which mean they added a couple of functionality on top of reactive form. And we will go through a bit of them. So the more important thing is they allow type form, and also the form builder also support type. The other thing I will show you later on. So um, so that what does it mean is like when I has this Nginx thing, when I use it, okay, so here is not a very concrete example, but basically the form group here, instead of importing from Angular reactive form, I took it from Nginx form, and then you can passing the additional argument when you create a form group, which is the type that you expect the form shape to be look like. And then if you start to, like if you don't supply enough control into the form group, it will give you an error. If you sending the wrong data type into a control for like the default value, it also giving you an error. And it's roughly the idea. So let's rewrite the form that I just showed you with reactive form. So let me go back to the code. So still it is using still the same form that I show you, still that UI, and I'll just I create another component. I call it add issue with type, and the tools was pretty similar. Let me do the library. Yeah, easier to see. So the left side is the one that I rewrite with Nginx reactive form. The only difference is like instead of import, eh, eh, sorry, I think I opened the wrong file. I think this is the one. Just a sec. Yeah. So the right side is the way that we are using when you install Angular. So I import form builder and form group from Angular form with the new library that I show you, Nginx reactive form. Instead of taking from Angular/form, you take it from Nginx reactive form, and everything go the same. Just go down a bit to the init form method. So if I go down to the init form method here, with the new library with Nginx reactive form, you can put in the type into the group method when you create the new form group. And now it has the add issue detail, which is like something, just an interface to shape up the form. So for example, you wanted the user IDs is always a string, an array of string. and go back to the definition here, you have to put it as the empty array. Otherwise, if you like putting 4, for example, it will giving you an error because Boolean you cannot access assignable to a string array. Or if you remove this completely, like you remove the user ID from your form, it will tell you, hey, this user ID is missing. You might want to edit in, otherwise the build just failing, and I will not let you go through. That is the first benefit that I receiving. Like I saw it is like mind blowing. I mean, I really like it. But the second thing is that because it have you, it know the type of the form, which means that on the template side. So this is where when I use the still the example before, I wanted to show the error message if this title is notified. But when I put an HRT here, it know that the title is not belonging to the add issue detail interface that I defined earlier. That's why it can like throw an error, and if you open the console, you will see that the view is just cannot go through, and you have to fix it. And I think it is very like it is really great. Like imagine you don't have this very simple title, like you build a form to input like a car engine part, whereas the name is so different. So with that, you can get all of these suggestion thing. Yeah, so you can get all of the suggestion when you write code, and I think it's really good to protect our code from error. Yeah, I think that's it for the type of the type stuff in engineered reactive format. I really like it. So I'll just show you the code. So here is just the screenshot that I capture, so that if you're not following the talk, you still can understand. And to migrate it over to engineered reactive form is very simple. You just need to run a simple command, and this will try to look for all of this import, and this will just replace it with the one coming from engineered reactive form. And your like additional work is just to put in the additional type for the form itself, so that you can get the benefits from a strongly typed form of this library. Um, One of the cool thing that this library provided is like they help you to persist the data of the form. Persist meaning it's just like save the data into a storage, and by default it is a custom storage. And what does it mean is like on the screen, when I connect the form using this persist method, and I put the key add issue, it will just uh, save the data as I type in the form into an add issue key in the local storage. And if you like just close the form like by accident, you still have the data because it is storing on the local storage. And before it's listened to your new chain, it will take the data from local storage and then pass it over to the form, so that if you refresh the page and you open the form first time, you still you can see the data because it's still inside the local storage. And I think it's a cool feature because sometimes you just create a pull request on GitHub and you write a long post, and then at the end you just forgot to click into a link. And if there's no warning before you like before the web application navigating you like over to GitHub or stuff, it will lose all of the data. And I think it's interesting. But also you need to make sure that you need to clear the storage when you submit the form, and you should not like store all of the data in the form is like all the time, because maybe when the user wanted to close the form, they really wanted to clear the form data, and then they wanted to start fresh, and maybe you wanted to like consider to warn the user before you close over the form if there's a unfinished like work on the form itself. uh, that's one thing. They also added a bit more like query. Like when you use Angular, you has only two observable to listen to the value chain and the status chain. And with Nginx, they added more like observable things so that you can listen and like concat it with other observable to make the code easier. Also, there's a few helper methods like the one I just showed you. I check if the control had been touched and the error has this required. I will show the error, but then in the library, they've been provided like just the method. So under the hood, they are still doing the same thing, but the code is going to be lesser. So has error and touch, and that is how it's look. Just a second. So here, instead of touch, I can just change it to hash. Hey, uh, sorry, I'm still not very familiar with Mac. Oh, eh, that is weird. Hide it. Somehow I cannot type anymore. So weird. Sorry for that. I just don't know what. Yeah, I just keep typing on the screen and then somehow Visual Studio Code didn't pick it up. But yeah, anyway, you can use it like basically in this title. When you do this dot title thing, you can do more stuff instead of like only the built-in stuff with Angular. And there's few more. You should go to the library and check it out. And there's a few alternative ways to do it, but there's approach is a bit different. And I still found that the Nginx reactive form provided the easiest way so that you can also like migrate over from Angular form and stuff. So, but if you don't really happy with that, make sure to check this to library that the community is supporting. And the summaries for the talk is like the key takeaways. So the Angular reactive form is not type safe and it could lead you to some unwanted error. And by using Nginx reactive form, it will just basically edit on top of Angular form some functionality so that it also help you to easy migrate over to the library if you feel it is the way for you to use form. And they also added the capability to persist the form state into the local storage. I know that there's a few state management library like ngxs where you can install a plugin and then you can do the same thing. But from a form library itself, I haven't really seen it. So yeah, it's really up to you whether like which way you want it to use. And you can find the source code into my GitHub repository, and it will inside a brand name feature strongly typed form. And yeah, if you enjoy this project, you can give it a star. And with that, thanks. I use some reference why I was looking for the resource when I built the slide. And thanks for listening. And I hope you learned something from the talk. And yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions?
Did you make a clone of Jira from scratch?
Yeah, I did.
That was very cool. I thought that was actually Jira at first. I was like, oh, it's a person in Jira. And then I realized, I'm like, no, he made that. That's really cool.
Actually, it's not like I mean, I saw the version which is written in React.js, and I thought Angular could do the same thing. Why not? So I just rewrote it with Angular, yeah, and using some reactive thing behind. So I think it's a cool project, yeah, because I still can add it a bit more. Like it is becoming my pet project, and I can plug a lot of stuff in. Like I can put storybook, and recently I put also unit testing and stuff because I cannot do freely on my work stuff. So I have the Jira clone where I can just try whatever I feel like it is useful. Yeah, so it is storybook that I just did. Yeah. That's it.
Awesome. Do we have any other questions?
Maybe I just stop sharing.
No, Nginx looks really, the Nginx reactive forms looks really useful. I know that's definitely a problem that I've encountered a lot, where I've definitely wanted my forms to be typed, and I think I've starred or +1 or whatever you need to do for that GitHub issue that's been open for forever. So this looks like a really great solution to that problem.
Yeah.
And I also like loved how easy it was to migrate. It also looks like it would potentially be easy to migrate back to the Angular version if they were to add in type support and you wanted to have everything on Angular if you didn't use some of those new built-in features.
I didn't really use it a lot, but I think one of the observable is like easier for you when you're combining stream and stuff together, because basically from the form reactive form in Angular itself is very like reactive with IJS, and everything was a stream under the hood. So if you can get all of these like statuses and all of the disable stuff in observable, which is going to be very helpful. But I never really use it a lot. I will apply it to my Jira clone, but I never really put it to my production work in the company. I think it should be okay again.
How do we know if we could use it then? You know. Okay.
You can be the guinea pig.
Not I. No. I thought it was cool. I definitely thought about this issue a lot. I'm building like a lot of reactive forms and building like dynamic table, like almost like configuration settings and stuff like that, depending on like what feature users looking at, whatever. But relative to your one of your if statements, you could have put it like a question mark, you know, to check if it exists or not, just let you know.
Yeah, sure.
But still, types is very powerful in general. So it's a cool library. And to the point that was mentioned already relative to switching back to Angular, I think that's really big. That was one of my concerns. Like, what happens if this project doesn't stay up to date, or Angular is like, yo, I'm gonna take all your awesome ideas and and add it to the forms, you know. So anyway, thanks for sharing.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Any other questions? We also, you know, I think the great thing is like we, this talk and Sam's talk were also recorded, so you can always go back and rewatch them. We'll post links to the YouTube videos in the meetup once they're up. It normally takes a couple days, but it shouldn't be too long.
Stop the recording?
Yeah, there's no other questions.
Oh, yeah.
All right.